Hello, everyone. Welcome to week two, class four of AI plus journalism. Go into our week two folder in our week two schedule and scroll down in the week two schedule to Thursday, September 5th. I'll have the link to our video here and on the syllabus under Thursday, September 5th. I'm going to cover a few things today, just some resources for finding prompt writing tools, e-newsletters. We had you follow three in the first week: the Journalist Toolbox, Wonder Tools, and Tools for Reporters. But I'm going to show you a few more today that are optional. And then start signing up for your AI tools presentations. You must sign up by next Tuesday. The actual dates that you'll present are much later, like starting in week 6. We've got a mini lecture here on what AI can do for you. And then I'm going to spend a little more time with ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Perplexity, and Claude, the large language model tools, and kind of pit them against each other to see how they perform as far as editing. And, you can do some hands-on testing on your own. I'm going to cover the homework here at the start. There's a little article from the International Journalist Network on some non-writing AI tools every journalist should know. Make sure you've subscribed to my free newsletter. It's on AI tools from Journalist Toolbox. Comes out every other Tuesday morning, right around 8 o'clock Central Time. So it's only going to crowd your mailbox twice out of the month, which isn't bad. Also want you to read the Open AI Prompt Engineering Guide. We're getting into prompt writing next week and really doing more complex prompts than we have. And as I mentioned in our last training video or class video, study letters A through D and the AI glossary of terms. And I've got it linked off here, showed it to you last class period. So pretty light homework, just study those glossary of terms, read through the AI prompt engineering guide. It'll help you get ready for next week. The Journalist Toolbox newsletter, make sure you're subscribing to that and read this short article. So pretty light week for you heading into Tuesday, September 10th. Where we'll be meeting in person. And I know you guys miss me. Anyway, on Tuesday, September 10th, we'll be back in SEO 1200 meeting in person again. So enjoy these remote classes while you can. To get started, let's click on this first link here. These are prompt writing resources from Journalist Toolbox. I've got a bunch of them listed here. I've got training videos. You don't have to watch this training video, but if you do, you can. We're going to cover a lot of it in class. But some of these are various websites that help you rewrite your prompts and think through writing more precise prompts. You can cut paste a prompt into many of these tools and they'll analyze them and tell you, hey, maybe if you phrase it this way, you get a better result, and boom, you will. So all these resources are here for you. I just wanted to point out that they're here. And you could go in and use them at any time. Like I say, we're going to do prompt writing next week in a couple of class periods, and really from then on out, we'll be using all the time, both for research, for data analysis, for creating images, creating videos. We'll do some text to video tools as well. Excuse me. So make sure you take advantage of that prompt writing, those prompt writing resources on there. Your second link is right here. It's the e-newsletters page on Journalist Toolbox. The ones that I've got you following up here at the top: Wonder Tools, Journalist Toolbox, and Tools for Reporters. You've already followed from last week, but there are a couple other really good ones. AI Tool Report, which comes out every couple of times every week, is really good. The Rundown is really good tool too. It talks about all kinds of AI tools and just news in the industry as well. It hits your inbox, every morning right around 7 to 8 a.m. right in there. There's more than 100 of them listed on this great webpage from Jimmy Kaplan at CUNY, who writes your Wonder Tools newsletter. I've got a few others down here too that you can, pick up some more newsletters. But AI Tool Report and Rundown are two that you might want to think about adding to your subscription list, especially if you're really into using AI and want to learn more about it and keep up with industry news. Really good thing to do. You've got the 3 required newsletters from last week. There are a few more in there that you can consider signing up for. Newsletters are just a great way of picking up, tips and tricks and things here and there. You can kind of read them at your convenience. It's a real nice thing to have, unless you're subscribing to too many, then it crowds your email inbox. The AI tools presentation. Everybody has to do one this semester, including me. I do them in just about every class. I show you a new tool. You must sign up by next Tuesday. So you'll just click on this link here and you go to this little sign up sheet. It's got a little overview and explains, what we're doing with it. And then there's some dates here starting September 24th through October into early November. Some of them you'll be the only person presenting that day. Others we have 2 people presenting. It's just, up to 5 minutes, at the start of class. And we'll just have you call up a tool on Mike's laptop. And you'll present it, talk about it, what you use it for. It's got to be an AI driven tool. So if you're unsure if it's an AI tool or not, just ask me. Most of them are. All I ask is that you arrive about 10 minutes before the class that day, and I'll get you set up on a private browser so you can log into the tool and use it and demo it for everybody. But just kind of show it and walk us through it and how it works and why it's useful to you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a journalism tool. It can be, something else, something that helps you in your schoolwork, your personal use, your job, internship, whatever. The other thing too, your mobile devices, I can plug those into my laptop, so we can hardwire them in, and you can actually show your screen over QuickTime video player, which is right here, and it's very easy to set up, and that way everybody can see if you're showing a phone app. It's a really good way to demo it, and it's hardwired in, so you don't have to worry about the Wi-Fi or anything like that. So anyway, go ahead and set up a time here. Just put your name next to the document. I'm going to make sure that I have it shared with you so you can edit it, make you all editors on it. Sure enough, everybody's an editor, so it's just double checking there. And you can go ahead and type your name there and sign up for a time. If all of them are filled, just add another one for the 19th or the 14th, and we'll squeeze you in. But based on how many people we have now, this should be in class now. This should be plenty of time. So make sure you've done that by the start of next Tuesday's class. If you haven't, I'll call you out at the start of class and make you sign up, and that kind of sucks. So anyway, just make sure you do it. Click on it and sign up. You can even pause this video and do it right now. What do you know? And just check back and put it in your personal calendar that you have that day and time. So make sure you show up on that day. Make sure you're prepared and ready to go. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. It's pretty cut and dry. I'm sure you guys have presented things in class before. This is just very not formal at all. Just show people, hey, here's a tool I'm using, and I'll keep a running list of all of them. And then at the end of the semester, everybody can benefit from that knowledge that you all share with us. All right, on to the lecture. And plus it's fun. It gives you some presentation experience. What the heck? So lecture, what can AI do for you? This is just a short lecture, so it'll be a lot shorter video than our last class was. But I want to talk about what AI can do for you. Not part of it's journalism, but part of it's just different ways you can use it in your everyday life. There's a lot of fear of it, and rightfully so. There's some concerns to have about it, but when you overcome those fears and really figure out how to use it, which is really what this class is all about, it's what you're paying for. We're teaching you how to take and use it professionally, ethically, legally. We're going to get into copyright law and things like that in the coming classes, but to show you how you can use it to make yourself more efficient and a better student, better employee, and can help you in everyday life too. One of the things I had you read for today was the Pew Internet Study from 2023. It's about a year old right now. It came out just about a year ago this month. And it was a study on ChatGPT. And some of the numbers that I've highlighted them here really alarm me. Only 1 in 5 Americans think that it majorly affects their jobs. Boy, do they have a big surprise coming because it affects all of our jobs. And has for a while. We're going to get into the history of AI, but AI's been around since the 1950s. The last decade and a half, the big 6 tech companies, Google, Meta, Twitter, Microsoft have been using AI in many different ways. It's just now that it's more readily available because smaller developers can build with AI. And you're looking at, God, as many as 2,000 new AI tools a month are coming out, and thousands of new custom GPTs every week. So there's a lot of opportunities there. Only 1 in 3 college educated adults say they've used ChatGPT. So that tells us something as journalists that also too, men are more likely than women to report using it. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean women aren't using it. Only 1 in 5 report using it. About almost 1 in 3, a little over a quarter of all men say they're using it. So, and that's everybody, not just college educated adults. But tells you that our audience says that, they're not necessarily using these tools or they're unfamiliar with them. So that's very important for us as journalists to know, and also to disclose to our reader when we're using it. If we're using it for research or to write a headline or do a graphic or something, we need to tell or create an image, tell the reader that we're using AI. It's very important. There's enough mistrust of the media already. But boy, if we start trying to hide the fact that we're using artificial intelligence in our reporting and research and our work, it's going to create more mistrust. So I've got the link to the study right here. Also, they have just a page of all their charts like I have here. So very interesting findings from that study that I had you read for today. What is fear? Oh my God, it's Michael Myers from Halloween. Scares the living bejesus out of you. So does AI. When AI first launched, as far as widespread usage in 2022, people were really scared of it. They were leery of it. They didn't know how it worked. It would create hallucinations and disseminate bad information. People found it very unreliable, and at times it is. If you know how to use it right, it can be very reliable. If you're feeding it information that is already accurate and trustworthy and asking it to analyze it, it'll do a wonderful job. The one thing about fear, though, fear often, we fear what we don't know or what we don't understand. That's what scares us the most. Michael Myers jumping out of the shadows and scaring us. That's scary. But we don't understand really how AI works. We don't really understand where the information's coming from. We tend to stick our head in the sand like this dude and say, "Oh, I'm just going to sit out AI." Well, guess again, because AI is basically everywhere. It's in whatever we're using. So you don't want to stick your head in the sand. AI is part of what we do now. Be pragmatic about it. Find a way to use it right. That's what we're here for. Serena Vasson, a good friend of mine. He's a former dean of students at Columbia University in New York. He runs a podcast year round every Sunday called the New York Times Read Along, where you sit down with him on the podcast. I've been on it. It's fun. Where he goes through the New York Times and also just talks about different books and things going on in tech and stuff. And Sri's an early adopter of web technologies like I am. We started using it in newsrooms in the mid 1990s and training people on how to do it and teaching college students how to use it. And he was giving a speech in New York City last spring at a college journalism conference I was at. So I sat in the back of the room, kind of listened in on him, and he's always interesting, so he's got great things to say. And these are some of the highlights that he pulled out of it. Every industry is impacted. I mentioned that earlier, and there's much money to be made using AI. He doesn't call them hallucinations. I still do a little bit, but he says AI makes mistakes just like we do. In fact, many times when AI makes a mistake or hallucinates, it's because of us, because we've given it a prompt that is poorly written. We're asking it to do something it's not trained to do, or we're asking it to do too much. We're asking it to do 4 or 5 things at once, and it gets overwhelmed and it makes the mistakes or hallucinates. So many times it's human error that causes AI to make the mistake, which is interesting. AI companies may not fix all the dangers or pitfalls. They're working on it, but be aware of that as you're working with it. Here's a great point he makes. I'm going to get into it on the next 2 slides. Team human will prevail, meaning human-centric AI is what we're going to have to keep practicing, where we're still at the controls, we're still the gatekeepers on the information that gets out, but we're using AI to make us more efficient, help us with research, and do all these great things for us. Think of it as a crane that can pick something up and carry it up, several flights of a building, as opposed to the way they did it back at the early 1900s, they carried bags of cement up the stairs so they could build the buildings. That's how New York City was basically built. But boy, not anymore. You've got cranes and other technology, drones that'll pick up stuff, heavy stuff, and carry it up there. So you've got technology to do the heavy lifting for you. Let AI do the heavy lifting for you. A lot of hype about AI, a lot of negative hype, a lot of positive hype. No tech can live up to such hype. So remember, be realistic. And I say pragmatic about it, but also just approach AI with cautious curiosity. Most of you are taking this class because you're curious about it. How can I learn to use this to really make myself better and more available in the workforce? Being here and learning that is the first step. But remember, it just can't live up to the hype. We've got to temper how we use it. And that's why I use that term, cautious curiosity. Use it, but be very skeptical of the results it gives, fact check everything, and be cautious about how you're using it. Careers are going to be upended in a lot of new ways. I'm going to get into that in just a minute with a couple of slides. But I wanted to talk about the human-centric journalism. The Associated Press, which is a newswire service that's been around for decades, distributes news stories, sports, entertainment news, but a lot of great photography comes from AP. They have what's called the AP Style Book that drives, whether we spell out a number or you use the numeral and all kinds of different standards for sourcing and news judgment and things like that. They have implemented what's called the 80-20 rule, which I think is just fantastic. And basically they're saying anything that is coming from an AI tool, from generative AI, such as a large language model like ChatGPT, should be treated as unvetted source material. So you got to apply your editorial standards and your sourcing standards when you consider any information before it's published. We kind of looked at that in the previous training or the class video when I asked it to write the news stories. You wouldn't just cut and paste that news story in there. You'd have to go through and vet every single piece of information. In fact, we really rewrite the whole thing and put it in your words rather than their words. So you always want to vet any research or information that you get. They apply what's called the 80-20 rule. This is what they call human-centric journalism, human-centric AI. If 80%, up to 80% of a process can be automated, at least the other 20%, sometimes it's 70-30 or 60-40, requires human interaction, editing, fact-checking, editing code, or et cetera, on the back end to make sure it's right. Like I showed you in Perplexity last class period. Called something up in Perplexity, noted the footnotes, and would attribute any of that information to that source and go into the website and check it. Tell the audience that something's partially generated AI if it's published. We used AI to write this headline. This image at the top of my story was created using DALL-E 3 under my art direction. Attribute it in the story if it's used for research, that type of thing. So tell the audience and be transparent in it. I mentioned earlier that, or Sri actually on his slide mentioned that many industries are being impacted by artificial intelligence. And this highlights many of them here, everything from banking to media, gaming, education, plagiarism detectors and things like that. Sports, there's now wearable tech to analyze athletes' performance. You saw it a lot during the Olympics, Major League Baseball, the NFL is starting to implement a lot of AI into trackers that are built into the helmets and the shoulder pads. The major things like, speed of impact and things like that can help keep the athletes safer. A lot of that's driven by AI. Smart homes, maybe you've got ALXEA, I'm spelling it out, so my ALXEA doesn't kick in right now. So I'm talking to a little kid, which is kind of how you treat AI. So, we have smart homes now, a lot of automated things, temperature controls, things like that. And those have been around for a long time, long before AI became this big catchphrase back in 2022. So big impact on many industries. And if you're going to work in those industries, having AI on your resume and put every single tool that I teach you in this class on your resume because it makes you marketable in the workforce, both for internships and for full-time jobs. So what can AI do for journalists, or really for any of us? It can do things like help generate interview questions. I'm a reporter going to interview a U.S. congressman, give the person's name, on the impacts of overturning Roe v. Wade. What questions should I ask? Now, you don't have to use all those questions, but it can help generate ideas for questions. Maybe you use a couple of them. Maybe it's you rephrase a couple of them for some other questions. It can draft scripts for broadcasts and podcasts. You go through and do some very heavy editing on them. Again, I'm not big on writing with these. It'll sort emails and classify them. It'll automate public meeting summaries and earnings reports. I showed you that custom GPT that will summarize YouTube videos from public meetings. It's been a savior for reporters. You don't have to sit through a 2.5-hour video or sit through a public meeting. You can run a little summary of it through ChatGPT's custom GPT and get a summary of it in a matter of seconds. And they're accurate. You can go into the video and check on the timestamp and make sure it's accurate. It'll organize and format things like police blotters. It's really good at suggesting keywords for stories. You can drop your story that you've written into ChatGPT and give me 5 SEO keywords and hashtags for social media for this story. Ask it to help you write some social media posts. Again, you'd want to edit those pretty heavily, but it can be useful for that. Just don't ask it to write a story. It's good at brainstorming ideas for headlines, scraping and analyzing data, which we're going to do some of that in this class. It's good for creating data visualizations. You can load a spreadsheet right into it, tell it what kind of chart you want. Boom. You've got a bar chart of Chicago homicide data in a matter of seconds. Generate lists for story ideas. Maybe we'll try this in ChatGPT or Gemini. Story ideas for Chicago's new casino that's going up on Halstead in Chicago Avenue, where the old printing press is for the Chicago Tribune. Summarize or extract info from a block of text. Maybe you've got this really long academic study and you want it to summarize or extract the key points from that document. You can put it in there and ask it to do it. I think I'll do a little bit of that when we get to the AI tools today. It'll create event agendas, create social media calendars and publishing schedules. What would be a good time to post about this topic on this day? It'll tell you all kinds of really cool stuff. It'll automate, record keeping, invoicing, scheduling, things like that. All kinds of different skills here. We're going to pick up on many of these throughout the semester. I probably wouldn't use it to generate a customized newsletter off of a news story, but it's good at creating little summaries that you can take and use in them. Gannett newspapers like USA Today are doing that. They're dropping their stories into ChatGPT and asking it to write a short paragraph summary that it can use at the top of the story. It helps with people looking at their stories on mobile. They can get a quick summary of it if they don't have time to go in and read the whole story. It's a smart use of it. Speaking of Gannett, this is a quote from Mackenzie Warren, who I actually worked for with Gannett. I did still do, I guess, a little bit. But with Mackenzie, I did a lot of their newsroom trainings on various tools, including AI. He's since left Gannett. He's over at the Medill School at Northwestern University, running their local news accelerator, helping newsrooms, small newsrooms, find financing and become more efficient. And he talks about AI here. I think it's really interesting. It's in one of my textbooks too. I use this quote from him. As time goes on, the tools are going to become more simpler to use and more powerful, and the producers will get more capable. That means you guys and myself as well. This will require higher levels of scrutiny and editing to ensure that quality and trustworthiness of the content matches the volume and speed with which we can create it. So we're going to get better at kind of keeping up with the technology and editing and producing the content. It'll make us more efficient, and in turn, that efficiency, we can take that time and apply it to more of an editor or quality control role. That's what Mackenzie's saying. Our role as journalists is shifting. We're seeing it already as college professors, as students. And I love this quote from Meredith Broussard. She teaches at New York University, NYU in New York. It's not magic. It's just another technology. She kind of says, don't believe all the hype. It's not special. You can do some miraculous things, but keep in mind, it's another technology, much like the technology you're using in your home, maybe in your car. My car is full of all kinds of technology, tries to warn me about different things. And sometimes I have to scale some of that technology back and keep my driving more human centric than I originally thought. A journalist's approach to AI, this also comes from the Associated Press. They use their local usage framework. They need to uphold their values, identify their staff skills to make sure they're trained on it, protect their data, make sure, if they're loading something into AI, when you do it into something like ChatGPT, it does have some privacy settings on it, which we'll get into in a few class periods. But it's learning from your content that you're moving into it. And that can be, an invasion of privacy or, something, as far as data. Like I would never load my medical records into one of those tools. It documents me, documents my medical records. I don't want that kind of information getting out. So keep in mind, be careful what you load into it and use. If it's something like public records, yeah, that's fine. But if it's something that maybe somebody has leaked to you, as a journalist, some information that's protected, that's what they mean by protected data. Definitely want to think about loading it up there. And this little box down here, determine when humans should have the final say in what's published, and that's pretty much all the time. Set those limits in the criteria process for how you use AI. That's kind of the macro look at the larger newsroom. They did a survey in 2023, early 2023, asking newsrooms what they wanted: print, radio, TV, and digital. This little horizontal bar chart kind of shows you a lot of them wanted transcription tools, but that's changed in the last year. We're becoming more sophisticated about how we use AI, and transcription is no longer our most important thing. That's tools like Otter AI and things like that. Social media content creation was number two, but it's slowly evolving and it's moving lower on the list. I believe now transcription in the 2024 study was sixth on the list. And it was more of research, data analytics and analyzing analytics, things like that. We're starting, structured data is now among the top two. So we're becoming more sophisticated about our wish list and what we need AI to do for us. Ways reporters can use AI now: generate story ideas and interview questions. We kind of touched on those. Transcribe documents and edit heavily on the back end, meaning you can load a document into ChatGPT and ask it to summarize it or transcribe the audio in Otter.ai or summarize the documents or video. It's very good at that. It's becoming very good at translations. ChatGPT 4.0 is very good at translating on its app, which is free. It'll do it in real time, but always double check those translations. It'll sometimes, mess up, based on accents and things like that. It'll struggle sometimes with that. So you always want to check it. Help with writing social media posts. And also, we'll get into this next week at prompt writing a little more in depth, but assigning AI a role. You are a data journalist, you are a medical reporter, you are a student journalist, and you need to do this task. By assigning it a role rather than just asking it for an answer, which is what I've kind of been doing already, in my examples, give it this role. It'll play many roles. You're a musician who, you are working for this, company, and you need to generate a report in their style or their formatting. Many times it can really match that really well if you tell it, give it this specific role. And we'll do a lot of that next week in prompt writing. The automation process for automating things. We're kind of at this point right now around steps 4 and 5, where it'll execute a suggestion and we have to sign off on it, approve it. That's human-centric journalism. And it's starting to move up, this ladder though. And when we get up to number 10, we're talking about high risk here. The computer decides everything, acts autonomously, ignoring the human. This is what a lot of people are scared of. Right here is that we're cut out of the picture, and the computers and software are making all the decisions. That was kind of the basis for the movie, the Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. The technology took over the world, that type of thing. But as long as we stick around here between 5 and 8. If we make sure that the technology is checking in with us and not just moving a story up and writing a story without our input, which is a very dangerous thing, then we're fine. But the high risk is up here where the computer's doing everything. The low risk is, where we're just doing it ourselves or asking it to do a few things, selecting things or analyzing things for us. The bad that comes with the technology, it makes it easier for people to create misinformation and disinformation. That's the work I do for Google right now, where I go around the country. In fact, I'm doing it this week, helping newsrooms track misinformation, disinformation, and fact check, fake photos, fake videos, and things like that. And some of the AI tools will help us fact check the AI generated content, the deep fakes. So that's one of the drawbacks is it's made it easier for people to create this misinformation, disinformation, which is a big problem during an election year. AI-driven content farms where they make up fake stories in them. It's harder to check, becoming harder and harder to fact check images. Although there are some tools out there that will track them, and we'll get into those in our fact checking week here. It makes it easy to make mistakes with it, misuse vague language. A lot of issues right now in copyright law that's heading to the courts. We're going to explore that during Law and Ethics Week. Biases in gender and race. Many times when you're asking for something, it'll assume that it's for males or only for white people, things like that. If you ask Stability AI for an image of inmates, it will often generate an image only of African American people and people of color. If you ask it to create an image of a man and woman working in a workplace together, it'll assume the male is the boss and the female is the assistant. It is still very race and gender biased. Many times you have to put those into your prompts, and we're going to do a lot of that next week. It's getting better. I've noticed over the last few months, Midjourney's getting better at not being so biased in some of their images. But boy, you really have to force it into the prompts. Create an image of people working in a newsroom and make the people a diverse group based on race, gender, and age. And then you'll get a more diverse image from it. So you have to tell it, be diverse. Really have to push diversity on the software. But like I say, it's getting a little bit better. Always think about where is your AI data going. We've talked about that a little bit with Otter.ai, which is a wonderful tool, but the free version can sell off your transcripts and your information about you. Here are some of the ways newsrooms have misused AI. Sports Illustrated, one of my favorite sports magazines growing up, went to a content farm and asked them to produce AI-driven sports stories. Then they asked the content farm to produce fake author bios to make it look as though they were human generated. In this website called Futurism caught them doing it and actually posted all of this. When asked about it, Sports Illustrated went and deleted all the content. So this guy really doesn't exist. They just made him up, a picture of him, and made up a bio of him, and then had the computers write the stories and make it look like a person was actually writing the story. Highly irresponsible. It's lying to your readers. There goes trust. Dozens of news sites are using chatbots to churn out questionable content. Hundreds of articles a day come from these content farms. Scary stuff. Also, keep an eye out online for these so-called AI experts. A lot of these are bots, and there's always spelling and typos, and tool apostrophe S in the image. These dudes, they're just trying to scam you into, hey, make $10,000 a month using AI and no code tools. You have these tools that they list, but what's the idea? What's the project? And that's kind of where the scam comes in. There's a lot of accounts like this out there on social. If you're ever unsure of one, run it by me. I'll take a look at it and help you discern. Remember, technology is coming at us a million miles an hour. Technology marches one direction, only forward. It will never go back to the old days of analog. And think about, if you buy a new car with a lot of tech in it, you're going to keep some turned on and some you'll turn off, or at least to lower levels. You'll customize the tech to fit your needs. It's the same way, if you buy a new phone, first thing you do? new screensaver and ringtone, custom apps to fit your needs. So you customize that tech to fit your needs and toss what you don't need. You delete out any apps you don't use or don't need. So you adapt, but very cautiously. And that's how you need to do it with AI too. Approach it with that cautious curiosity. Trust your gut. If you think the answers it's giving you aren't good, maybe you want to try another research method or go into some of the websites it's citing and look there. And always ask yourself this question: just because I can do something with this tool, should I? That comes in pretty handy in video creation and image creation when we get into that in the coming weeks. And always think, am I creating something that's socially beneficial, or is it potentially harmful what I'm creating with AI? Can you build all kinds of things with it? Is it trustworthy? And that's where ethics, copyright, accuracy come into play when we get into editing, law and ethics week, and things like that. And also ask this question: is it really saving me time, or is it creating more work for me? A lot of people started using AI early on, started to realize, wait a minute, I'm spending more time editing this than if I had just written the darn thing myself. And I've seen that students run into that, that try and cut corners in my class. You've just created more work for yourself because you couldn't even go through and edit it and get it, up to speed. And you used it to write this article. Now you're caught. You're going to have to do the assignment over again for no credit. And so you're creating more work for yourself. And that happens a lot in the newsrooms too. All the editing time actually overwhelms the time you would take to actually create the content yourself. We're kind of in this process right now, which is kind of interesting. So are a lot of newsrooms and professional journalists. We're kind of taking a step back in this class and observing that big landscape and picking up on native signals and cues. How can I use this in school or work to make me more efficient, or make me a better journalist or a better student? And then kind of identifying that North Stars, those one or two things you really need AI to do for you. And don't say write my term papers. But just identify those, couple of things that you really needed to do. That's been a big challenge for newsrooms. Be sure to take a look at our AI policy page. This is advice I give to newsrooms. Our link is right here. It's also on our website, journal or redlineproject.news. And we tell our readers on that webpage what our AI policy is. We had you read this in week 1. It's our principles and policies, editorial code of conduct, fairness policy, all this stuff. And the artificial intelligence policy, which is basically saying we do not use it to write articles, but we may use it to assist in research, creating photo illustrations, and we'll identify them as such. We follow these ethical guidelines from these organizations. Our reporters and editors are also responsible for disclosing AI tools they use. And we put those notes at the beginning of the articles under a little editor's note. You'll see them sometimes on the site. So very important to disclose this to the reader. We've got all kinds of little examples in here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we've used a tool called Videofy to do article to video, where we posted our article and then just loaded the article into this tool, and it creates these little social media videos for us. It picks the photos, picks the music, picks the text from the story. It did a really, really good job of it. So it was a story last year a student did about the tent cities that were being used to house migrants outside of stations and other parts of the city. And the protests going on, and these were some photos that she had shot. And you can sub out any of the images. It chooses the wrong image. All built with an AI tool called Videofy. It was our content, but we used Videofy to put it all together for us. We didn't have to touch it, which is pretty darn cool. All right, a couple more slides and then we'll be done. What's coming in the future, a lot more wearable AI tech. I mentioned it earlier with sports. This guy here's got a little AI wristband that he uses to control this drone. Our Apple Watches are going to become more and more effective. Same with glasses that we'll be wearing. They experimented with Google Glass years ago. I know Snapchat experimented with some glasses, but it's going to become much, much more relevant and much more fashionable to wear them. I was a Google Explorer with the Google Glass, and they look like robotic, glasses on you. You look funny wearing them. That's why people rejected the technology. We just weren't ready for it yet. This was back, in probably 2013, more than a decade ago. But we're getting there. We're starting to see more wearable technology like this. As I mentioned before in class, Otter.ai is a great transcription tool, but it can't sell off your transcriptions for the free version. I have many other tools on the transcription tools page on Journalist Toolbox. Descript is a very good one. Politico has this little article that explains where the data goes in the free version of Otter. What are some of the tools and what can they do? Google Gemini can help write Freedom of Information Act request letter to a government agency requesting public records. Can also tell me where to send it to. You can upload a photo and ask it to check its authenticity and origin. And you can always fact check any Google Gemini results by clicking on the little Google logo at the bottom. And you get a Google search with it to help back up what you found. Asking a prompt how it might be useful to journalists or college students. One of the first things I do whenever I open up one of these, tell me a little bit about what your functionality is and how you can be helpful to me as a college student or as a college professor or as a journalist. Reminder too on your ChatGPT custom instructions that I talked about, excuse me, last class period. Just make sure that you get those in there by next week. So it'll format your answers the way you want it to. Mobile apps we'll get into a little later. These are all my credits that I will I share the people that I learned from and help make me a better trainer, teacher, journalist, and so on. Always do this whenever you're doing a presentation. You're always welcome to use my decks, but always credit me in them like I do here. Don't just take other people's work and sell it off as your own. Little Dwight shirt here for you too. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that you can do with AI and some of these large language models. I always pit them against each other to find the answers I want, and you can practice with these on your own. Some of you have some experience using them, which is great. Others do not. So, this is more of a learning curve for you. I'm going to take some text, and this is a little paragraph. I'm going to drop this into your, or it is in your week 2 class Google Drive, to do an AP style check in Claude or Gemini, ChatGPT, and in any of these. And I'm typing in the new Gemini here because it's no longer called Bard. And Gemini often struggles with it. We'll see if it's getting a little better. So here's the prompt that I wrote. Edit this text for Associated Press style, meaning AP style, meaning, don't spell out large numbers, use the $ instead of spelling out the word dollars, things like that. Grammar and punctuation and spelling. Please list all edits and bullet points at the end so I can see the changes you made. This is also in my custom instructions, so I probably don't need this sentence, but I'm going to put it in there anyway. Notice I use the word please. It really likes it when you're polite. It's weird. I've had many students tell me that, a lot of professional journalists. When I say please and thank you, it gives me a little better results. It's a weird thing. So you can see this 3 paragraphs have a lot of spelling errors in them. Some are flagged in here, but it doesn't flag all of the punctuation, grammar, and AP style errors. So it does flag a few of, not all of the spelling errors. But I'm going to just copy this in here along with the prompt. And I'm not going to drop it into one tool, but I'm going to drop it into all 5. So we're just going to go right across the way here. If it tells me it can't do it, I'm going to ask it, well, you did it last week, do it again. Come on. So Copilot, I'm going to set it to precise because I want it to edit the content precisely. And I'll drop it into Gemini too. I'll see what it does. Sometimes it'll fail at this. Other times it'll come through. It's been very inconsistent. That's why I pit them all against each other. I want to see how consistent the tools are, week to week, month to month too. Okay. It also gave me a little disclaimer on that election story I had. Right. So Claude's very good at editing, and it makes the fixes in the copy. So $240,000 instead of spelled out is now the number. which is the right way. 20 instead of spelled as 20. Cleaned up all the spelling errors, caught the punctuation, the commas, the hyphens, and the apostrophes. Controllers didn't have an apostrophe. Then it lists in bullet point form all of the fixes down here so I can see them quite easily. We'll see how the other ones did. Boy, Claude was fast. As a language model, I'm not able to assist you with that. But you edited this content before. Try again. Almighty Gemini. Some fun with it. So I tell it, hey, try again, man. I don't accept that answer. Copilot is getting a lot better. It left it as one large paragraph, but it caught most of the errors. It looked like it might have missed a couple of punctuation things in here, but did pretty well. Perplexity, getting better. Wow, yeah. I think it did catch everything. Perplexity, pretty good editing tool now. In ChatGPT, let's see here. Edit this text. Did the edits, and it did do the list too, the bullet point list, which is quite nice. Which is nice. So, 3 of these did actually a really good job of editing. A couple of them, Gemini said it couldn't. It's being stubborn, says I can't help you with that. It's done it before, which is really, really freaky. So something's going on there. So anyway, by the way, this was a big surprise to the folks at AP. I demoed this for them at the Broadcast Education Association conference. A couple of them were on my panel from AP, and they were talking about, I can have this summarize my books, the chapters of my books. In my books, you have to pay to get them. You have to pay to use the AP style book, but it's been trained on them and knows how to use them, even though it's a paid document or paid book, which bothers me a little bit, because that's why I don't have students write chapter summaries. You could just go through and have AI do it without even ever buying the book, which is terrible. Don't do that because it does make some mistakes down there, but it did an accurate job with my books. And just fascinating, how it managed to do that. So take some time with all 5 of these and, create a little exercise and run some things through it, make some requests of it. Like I say, we're going to get into images and other different types of prompt writing in the coming weeks. But I just want to get you using the technology, especially Perplexity, since most college students have never used it. Really good one to get familiar with because it's a good research tool. Copilot too, a lot of you haven't used. Gemini, and then Claude especially, because Claude will be really helpful for us with data journalism. So that's all I had. Just make sure you do everything on the homework list for Tuesday and Thursday, just so you're ready for next week when we get back on September 10th. We'll be back in good old SEO 1200 and be ready to roll because we're going to really hit the ground running. Thanks again and aloha.